one man saying that is fine. If that's your opinion and you're not in it, that's fine. But there is an entire market of millions and millions of people that agree that it is a store of value. So, you can think one thing, but there's also a market, and markets tend to become efficient over time.
We do know that you will always get paid in Hex on a daily basis. And that is truly the miracle that we call Hex, because it is trustless interest, trustless yield. Nothing will stop that contract from running.
Wake me up when September ends. Welcome into the Creed of Crypto live stream. My name is Boi Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host Crypto Ewok, and we've got a lot of you guys pumping up the chat already. Valiant Low Key, welcome in. DJ Moonboy, of course, he's here fresh off the debate last night. Checks my pulse. Welcome in, man. Good to have you here as well, and lots more pouring in. We got Take a Break with Jake producing the show, of course, in the background. And we got a lot to get into tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Is the bottom in? Yes, I know. We all ask ourselves that question until we're blue in the face, whether it's about Bitcoin, Ethereum, the PulseChain, obviously, particularly in this case. But we've had such a bearish year for altcoins across the board. Some people think it may just be PulseChain or Hex sometimes, but it's really alts across the board. And we got to ask the question, is the bottom in? And we got the title of the episode tonight is that the sentiment bottom seems to be in, but does that mean that it is the case for the prices? And we'll get into some of the sentiment stuff that we've both seen lately. But to me, I've been talking to Ewok about it personally over the last week. I've seen some stuff that's just like the lowest sentiment I've seen in a really long time, like bear market, horrible sentiment. So we're going to get into that. We got a poll question in for you quite simply. Yes or no, is the PulseChain bottom in, the price of the Pulse token itself? Let us know what you think. I'd like to keep it short, simple, and to the point. So far, not a lot of votes. 75% say yes, the bottom is in. 25% say no. I think that's going to be flopping mightily here in a little while, probably. A lot of bears out there still. So, we got that. We got, obviously, we will talk a little bit about the debate last night. We're not going to get way too in the weeds, but we have definitely some reactions. We have CPI data coming in today that's going to influence the FOMC, a whole bunch of stuff, lots of stuff gearing up to happen this fall in the world of crypto and finance. So, Ewok, how are you this evening? How are you feeling about the markets and everything right now?
Oh, man. I'm good. I'm personally good. The markets have just been boring, sideways, boring, more of the same. I think people are just still very undecided as to what's going to happen politically. And I think they're looking for a little bit more clarity on it. Before they start dumping money in. I mean, it's always going to be something, right? I mean, it's the way it seems is there's always something to prevent people from putting massive amounts of money in for larger whales, whether it be SEC cases or political, whatever, or CPI, the regular markets changing. There's so many things. So, I don't know that we can pinpoint it to one thing or not, but again, I still think we're on schedule with the regular 4-year cycle. I haven't seen anything to say, no, man, this is really different. And, the world is in a weird spot, man. There's a lot of inflation happening. And people are struggling to pay bills and to buy groceries and to put gas in their car. And, it's just things are getting out of control. So your normal people that you would hear normally buying stuff, I don't think they are right now. Just a lot of uncertainty. So hopefully it all changes. Hopefully things get turned around here this month and we start to create some sort of upswing or at least some more positive movement. But you're right. We've seen a lot of negative things lately, just the comments on our streams, and you point them out to me because you get alerted to them, but just it's been weird, and it is what it is. I guess it's part of the part of finding that floor, I guess.
I think it is too. Yeah, we'll get into that specifically too here a bit. But yeah, we'll definitely get into it. Let's start off with where we are with Bitcoin and ETH right now. So they both, it's weird. Like it's been a volatile for those coins anyway, for Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's been a volatile couple of days just because of, I think, reacting to the debate, like the showing from Trump not as positive as many people would have thought. So I think there was some probably volatility over that. And then also the CPI data coming in today. Last week, we had the US jobs report. So we're going to get into that macro stuff a little bit, not to a boring level, but there is some really interesting stuff. And we got basically a lot of the details colored in for what we think we can expect here at the FOMC and what we might be able to expect for the rest of this bull market in terms of macro stuff. So that's really good. But ETH obviously still garbage against Bitcoin, just absolutely horrible. I think it's a 0.4 on the ratio right now. Bitcoin's a little over 57K, ETH at about 2350 at the moment. That's where they both are. Again, we've seen them kind of up and down over the last couple of days. Kind of first looking at BTC and talking Bob Lucas, the 4-year cycle master that always likes to troll Hex in his comments and stuff like that. I found it interesting the other day. I saw a, not really a thread, but just a post that he made. Lots of people were calling for Bitcoin below 50K. I don't think he was really one of them, but obviously, when the bears are out, they're going to be out in full force. And I think people that have a look at me, look how smart I am complex are always perma bears. That's just the way they are. They think that they know something that other people don't. And then more bearish stuff is coming. It's much easier to be an eternal optimist, But Bob Lucas mentioned the thing about the sentiment too on his thread that he was talking about with Bitcoin and the cycles right now. He was saying that the sentiment was far worse than the chart. So he was noticing it too. It just seems like people are just so down about everything right now. I don't know if it is the election stuff and all these things going on. I was actually looking at the comments of that post from a few days ago from Bob Lucas. It was almost a week at this point. There were literally people in the comments, get this, Ewok, that were calling ETH a slow rug. Like these people were calling Ethereum a long, slow rug right now. That's what we're in the process of. So that's where people are at. Now, generally people that follow Bob Lucas and are commenting are not going to necessarily be ETH people, even though Bob Lucas trades ETH and talks about it all the time. But I just found some of that. I mean, just piling on, already seeing all these people that are like, oh yeah, 38K is next for Bitcoin and the death of Ethereum, which, hey, I mean, they're explaining the chart well, or they're explaining what the candles have been well. Ethereum's been dog shit against Bitcoin all year long, but traditionally continuing to say that it's going to plummet even further is not going to be the best move for you. So what do you make of
well, Vitalik just did, he's dumped like 3,800 Ethereum in the past, I don't know, a month and a half or something like that. And I have a feeling that's probably what that comment was related to.
Right.
But, as far as the price going back below 50, well, it kind of did back here in August. So, I mean, it dipped down to 48. And now this higher low that we've put in, it still says that this could have possibly been the low part of the cycle here, or this part of the cycle. Obviously, the low was back 15,000 earlier. But I think as far as this dip, we're not really showing a whole lot of strength either. The market or the moving average is down and kind of pointed down. So, there is a possibility the 200 is still kind of topping out. But that 50-day moving average is headed down. So there's a possibility it could go back down. But as of right now, we've made a higher low. I find it funny, though, on the Ethereum price, how, I didn't change this channel that I had drawn way back here. I just keep extending it a little bit. And it's funny how we had kind of bumped out of that, but then fell right back in here within the last, what was it, on Friday the 6th. It dipped down and it touched the very bottom of this channel line and started back up. So it's interesting to see sometimes how these support lines eventually play out. I had drawn this back in here, back in May, and just continued it out to where it kind of points out. And I said, well, here we go back into this zone again. And once we came out of it, I thought we were going to be okay. but turns out we're touching it again. So I don't know if it comes back down into play in this region again, which is, man, you're looking anywhere from 21 to 2000, pretty much anywhere down in here if it comes back into this channel again. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know that we're out of the woods yet. It seems like, there's not a whole lot left in September, and September is usually a pretty bearish month, historically anyway. So, it could easily get down into here. And like I said, it could dip down into 2000 and then take off. Who knows? That's just a crazy, wild speculation that it does retest into this channel again, but just interesting to look at.
Yeah, and even if it did, I mean, that's basically just where it's practically already been there. You know what I mean? Like 2100 is pretty much where we've gotten the wick down to. I mean, well, you see that one major wick right there. That was probably the beginning of August, I assume, right there.
Yeah. So it was 2114 or something like that was the rough bottom here.
So even if we do, I mean, that's really about where it's been. Sometimes, like, I think people get unit bias and stuff like that, kind of like the larger these things, the more money these things cost. It seems like, oh man, 2000 the whole way down to 2000. I mean, it's not really that huge of a percentage actually, though. So we'll see. Obviously, it's just been, like you said, Vitalik's been dumping it, obviously. We just got to see if we can get ETH to rebound here eventually, and it may just take when it comes down longer like this. It just means you're going to be waiting a little bit longer, and maybe the move up will be a little bit more violent at that point.
Yeah, and this is just a simple trend line down too with this ratio, and it's pretty much hugging it. Either it's a little below it or a little above it, but this is kind of holding true as well for the BTC ETH ratio at currently, like you said, 0.040. So
yeah, not good, not great, but again, it just means that the time is going to take a little bit longer, and that's just where we're at right now. So certainly not giving up. And I mean, again, it's affecting all altcoins. So obviously people are watching this stream more so for PulseChain information and stuff like that, and how Pulse can be leveraged on Ethereum, and that needs, Ethereum success is going to help it go up. Well, that's true for the altcoin index. I mean, like, nothing's going to do well if Ethereum isn't doing well, and Ethereum, you want Bitcoin obviously to do well too. It's having a rough couple of months also. So
Fast Abdul's asking for an exact date and time. So I mean, geez.
Yeah, let's get the exact time. Now, I don't know what he considers a pump these days. I mean, if we had a 2% increase in a day, I'd be pretty happy with that. We may have even had that today. I don't know.
We might have. Might have. Okay. And then it dipped again. So
Fast Abdul, you let us know what you consider a pump. And we'll let you know. We'll have to think about that a little bit. So okay. So that is that. We will have to see where Ethereum goes here. Sorry, I have somebody here invading my personal space a little wee bit. So let's move on to some PulseChain prices here. So where are we at? So this has been an interesting thing. So the last couple of days, we have seen, pump for ants for PulseChain over the last couple of days. I mean, actually, it's been a decent a decent move off of the lows here. We have Pulse up to quad 034. Pulse X is up to 4 zeros and a 1.7, which it's made a good move as things have started to come up. Incentive token, we've seen this before, like Pulse X and Incentive usually move pretty well. I think Hex also actually has moved pretty damn well as things have come back up. We have Hex at 0041 right now, and then eHex at 0011. So we are seeing some green within a PulseChain over the last couple of days, while everything else is still oscillating, and that's been really bullish to see. And it does beg the question. I mean, like, are the tides starting to turn a little bit? Are we out of sellers at this point? Are we exhausted? We'll get into the sentiment thing here during this conversation. But first off, you've got the Pulse chart up. So what do you make of it right now? We are starting to see a little bit of a move up. And again, and we can look at it in a moment, but that Pulse versus Ethereum chart, we can look at it in a minute again. But if you look at it, it's basically been flatlined since May of this year. So Pulse against ETH, which in my opinion is probably a better thing and a more comforting thing for anybody to look at than looking at the value against USD. You'll see it's like, I don't think we're going to go any further down. I mean, it's basically been flat lines for 4 months. So anyway, what do you make of the regular Pulse chart here, Ewok?
Well, you really have to zoom in on it to get any kind of real pump. It's a pump for ants. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
but after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these are days. Never mind. It was a week straight of down, and then 3 more days. You break it up by 1. But it looks like it has rounded off. Like I said, if you zoom out though to the bigger picture, it isn't much, right? I mean, we're down in this little corner here.
Right.
It looks better. It's not a straight up, straight down thing. It's when you see these rounded off bottoms, it usually means that sentiment is turning a little bit. Back here was 1, 2. There was started a rounding, and then it did take off. That was back in October. When you see rounded things, though, it can go the other way as well. There's a rounding here, and then boom, but then took off again. So, yeah, I mean, it's just like I said, I hope this is the bottom. It's gotten so close though, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit later. But it's gotten so close that I removed one of my liquid loan positions just because it's not worth it to me to make a little bit of yield on some borrowed in a vault. So I removed it. It's just again, I over collateralized by I think it was 11 or 1200% of what I borrowed, and it was down to 300 or 400%, and I just wasn't comfortable with it. So I pulled my vault. I paid back the loan, and I'll wait till we get a little bit better of a confirmation. Even recollateralizing at that same percentage at these levels would probably be a better thing to do. And that way you can buy time and also have a little bit more play with it. But again, just for now, I decided to pull it out and just not take the risk with my Pulse.
I totally get that. And I wanted to just look at some of we were talking about some of the sentiment around PulseChain. Yeah, the comments specifically on our channel, and well, it's not just our channel. I was just watching Money Gang Crypto. He's been like really pumping out great content lately. I love that guy. He's been doing a lot of streams just by himself, interviews with people and stuff like that. He's been doing so great. He was echoing the same thing the other day, just like the comments and seeing stuff from people. Crypto Coffee, I saw, did a live stream the other day and had multiple people that were super bearish and criticizing Pulse in the chat. And, Coffee, usually he's got a lot of subscribers. He's usually going to get some pretty positive people that have been around a long time and kind of get this whole thing. But we have just gotten, again, this is just me, I'm the, common denominator here, I guess, but like, I've never seen comments this bearish on our videos before. I've never seen the amount of them. It's just been insane. And I've been questioning whether to even mention this guy because I don't like giving people attention, but I'm going to because of how bad. I want to use him as a vehicle for what all these people are like. So there's a guy who has a channel named DeFi Gardener that comments like on every video and just puts like a eye roll face, or he's just always criticizing it, or like sell all your Pulse now, it's going to go down another 50% and stuff like that. And I'm like, what is this guy's channel? Because he has like 5,000 or 6,000 subs, and I go to it and he hasn't made a video for like a month or two, and they're all Solana meme coin videos. All of them, nearly all the videos. There was like one PulseChain video in there, and he's talking actually positively about PulseChain in it. But it's all trading Solana meme coins, like during Solana meme season and stuff like that. So one day I just said to him, because I am curious, because I know he's probably just a troll, but I'm looking at these comments and I'm just like, okay, when you guys say this, like, and again, they could just be trolls. Maybe I'm taking this too seriously, but I'm like, what are you proposing? Like, there's never any, it's just like Pulse sucks, sell, get out of the community. What are you doing? It's going to, okay, what do you propose? So one day I said to him, like, would you propose selling, doing meme coins on Solana then? And he's did kind of a half-hearted answer saying, yeah, at least blah, 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 whatever. I don't know. But I'm just like, these people, my point is they don't propose anything different. It's just coming to shit and troll and stuff like that. So they shouldn't be taken seriously in terms of like advice or listening to them or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I think taking note of the volume of them is really important, because it really feels like a sentiment bottom to me. And then I saw that tweet from Bob Lucas in recent days too, more so in regards to Bitcoin and crypto as a whole. Man, sentiment is just down the freaking toilet right now. And
Yeah.
I want to ask you, I want you to follow up on that, but I also want to ask you, we were having this discussion the other day. Who are these people? Like, is it, what my question is, like, were they Pulse holders and sold and are now rooting for it to go down to confirm their, actions? That's what people usually do. You buy something
Yep.
or sell something and then try to justify it however you can. Or that's it. That's the only hypothesis I really have.
Yeah, I agree with that whole sentiment where people have made the choice to dump their bags, and they root it on to go lower just to justify their actions. Usually that's what it is, rather than when things go down and DCA in for a better position, a better average, they try to get it all in one clip. And a lot of times what ends up happening is they never do get back in because they always think, well, it's going to go lower. So what ends up happening then is it turns around, it moves extremely quick, and then they never get in because they're probably lost interest or they're probably moved on to something else. And they completely lose the position that they would have had they just stayed in and possibly DCA'd a little bit on the way down. That's what happens to those type of people. Usually, there aren't many that will, take a dip like this one, for example, sell in this range and then happen to catch it back here and say, I think it's over. I'm buying all back in at a much better position. You would double, had you done that, you would have doubled your bag, even if you sold in this area at this, for what is this? What am I looking at here? Pulse, 4 zeros and an 8.5. We're below half of that. So you would have doubled your position anytime in here just by selling and rebuying back in at these levels. So, hindsight's 2020. Obviously, it could go down lower, but there aren't many people, again, like I said, to just dump their whole bag, think it was the right thing, and then have the courage to buy back in at this level. So,
right.
Yeah, a lot of that is exactly what you said, because I can't think that many people would flood their own bags. Like if they're still holding and they're still talking the trash that I see on it, it just baffles me sometimes how people can talk badly about the things they own, and it leads me to believe that, well, they've probably sold it and they're rooting for it to go down just to justify their actions. So.
I think you're dead on. And yeah, because clearly some of those guys do have interest in PulseChain and have held it, because I said in that one particular guy's case, he's making videos on it in the past and stuff like that. So
Right.
I understand it. I mean, but again, something that people have to remember is like all they're doing is confirming what's going on. It's like, yeah, this is what the chart looks like right now, and people are outraged and bitching and can't take it and stuff like that. So, if you are inclined to really believe in the ecosystem and believe in these products and everything, then you just buy the blood, obviously. That's just what you got to do.
And Chris Bruin, I don't know if I was on the other screen, so I don't know if you highlighted his comment or not.
I did not, no.
But they can't dump their hex stakes. So, it's one of the things, especially for long-term hex takers, where you don't want to FUD it because you can't unstake it without taking a catastrophe of a penalty. And, I think a lot of people still silently root for it. They're just not talking about it because the price is down so badly. But right now is the time you want to get people in. The honest people want to get people in at these cheap T-share prices, right? Not when it goes up to 10, 20, 30 cents. You kind of have to watch out for some of those people if they're telling you at that point to stake it that late in the game. They may have an ulterior motive to get you to stake at 10, 15, 30 cents, whatever it may be, when they should be telling you now's the time to buy those T-shares. Now's the time to make those stakes, because it's going to cost you half a quarter of the price, maybe, even a 20th of the price. So,
right.
Yeah, just watch out for those type of people that will tell you later on, to now's the time to definitely stake, because actually it's now, not then.
Yeah. And shout out Chris Bruin. He comments on a lot of our videos, and I appreciate that. I want to answer Silverstone in 1 second here, not yet. Could you go ahead and look at Pulse versus ETH real quick, Ewok? Because I just want everybody to see what we're talking about. And shout out Corey Geary. I know he shows this pretty often on his streams. And I think that people...
yeah, I got to open a new window, but that's okay.
Oh, really?
Go ahead. Okay. Yep. I don't have it on...
Just to illustrate for people that are kind of in that like panic mode and they're looking at the USD chart and they're like, oh my God, it's a new low, or we're so close to a new low and stuff like that. I think once you realize, like, first of all, you have to intellectually realize that PulseChain, not just PulseChain, but other altcoins are heavily tied and correlated to the success of Ethereum. Okay. Ethereum is horrible right now. We already illustrated that at the top of the show. So look at the chart against ETH for coins that you're interested in, and looking at the Pulse versus ETH chart, I think should give you a lot of solace and comfort instead of looking at the USD chart. Because after all, if you're in crypto, like if you believe in this, you know, it's a hedge against it, more than a hedge against inflation. It's, you know, a way to exit out of the fiat system and the ever-ending money printing, which we're going to get into here in a moment. You should want to measure yourself against Bitcoin, against Ethereum and things like that, and look at it in those terms so you can kind of get a little bit more comfort out of it, because that's really what matters. PulseChain has basically been at a flatline bottom against Ethereum for 4 months now. And all you're looking at is a ratio, a decimal point at that point. I think you have it backwards there. I think that, or I think that was, here, zoom out. You're at WETH/Pulse instead of the other way around. Or maybe that's it. Here, if you scroll up. Okay, keep going. Yeah, keep going. I don't know. This chart's all messed up. You might have to I'm
going to the daily.
Zoom out about it. Yeah, I don't that's not it.
Well, it's wrapped ETH and wrapped Pulse. It should be the same ratio, but hang on. Let me see what we can find.
If you just do WPLS, yeah, do WPLS and I'll tell you which one. Here we go. Yeah, okay. So just do the top one. I don't know if that's what you're already on, but if you just do that, yeah, and then just change USD to WETH at the top. There we go. And then kind of zoom out. Here we go. There you go. Okay, cool. That's fine. Yeah. So see right there. So beginning of May basically to now. And actually, is that a huge green wick there? I don't at the end here. So yeah. I mean, you can see. I don't know when the hell that was or what happened there.
Yes, yesterday.
Interesting. Probably when ETH crashed again and Pulse was kind of pumping here. So even more inspiring. So look at that. I mean, like, it's just been flatline since May. You know, that looks pretty bottomy to me. And then you're seeing even more positive action recently. So if you look at this, to me, I mean, don't you take comfort out of looking at that chart, like more so than the USD chart right now? Like, yeah, it's down, obviously. We know that. But the USD chart is like, oh, it looks shaky and stuff. But measuring against Ethereum, I mean, looks like we've bottomed or are bottoming.
Yeah, or just leveled out. You know, when you go that long, you know, from, like you said, May into September, that's a long time of just bouncing in a channel.
Yeah. Yeah. So that I think is how, if you're panicking about prices one day and like, oh my God, we're at all-time low, what do I do? You know, whatever. I think it's a good thing to look at that and look at that ratio to kind of comfort yourself a little bit.
Yep, I agree.
Silverstone, not that he said too much, but he said, will Hex hit an all-time high? He said, I am still so down. So he's probably like many people that bought most tops from 2021, and you're not alone. Many of us have done that. Many people are still here from that time. Funding Jim Gary Woods bought Hex at over 40 cents. I mean, there's many people that have done that, you know. But it's about time horizons, how long you're planning on being here, and all that stuff. But will Hex hit an all-time high? I mean, that's, I don't know what your portfolio is like, or if you're just somebody who is in Hex, but you just have to ask yourself, like, what is, if you look at your life, like, what's the amount of money that you're looking to get out of this that would actually change your life? What are your living expenses? Stuff like that. And I would focus more on that, on whether Hex will hit an all-time high or what price it would get to. You know what I mean? Because you got to remember, like, it isn't just Hex now. I mean, we have Pulse, PulseX, both Hexes. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, no, I didn't mean to cut you off. All I was going to say is we know it's possible. It's been there before. Some of these things, like PulseX, they were very maybe at the sacrifice rate for a second.
Yeah.
So, we know it can hit that, but when people start talking about hundreds of X's after that, well, that's unknown territory. But we know Hex has been to 50 cents already, so we know it can. There was a lot less liquidity. There were a lot different situations, a lot less coins with the same number of people. And when you spread things out a little bit thinner, it gets harder to move things. So they become a little bit heavier. But we know it's possible. It's not like saying Hex to $2. Well, we don't know if that's possible because it hasn't done that yet. But it has done 50 cents. So, the all-time high, well, it's there. It's within reach, and we know it can. So, I don't discount it. I think Hex could get back to that. It's going to take some bullish sentiment across the board, though, and it's going to take people. The old saying is what makes price go up? Well, people buy more than they sell. And lately, it's been a lot of sellers. You can look at the charts and just see that people are just dumping stuff left and right. The good thing about that, though, is it becomes lighter. It's got a lot less dead weight. Big sellers are out. They can't hurt the price later. So when it's like a bow and arrow, as it pulls back and gets tighter and tighter, the more it can spring forward. So, we release a lot of that extra baggage, and I think it can. I think it will. I just think we're going to need some clarity from SEC and things like that before we can get to that point. Now, hopefully, we'll find a little bit of something out here in October, but I don't expect it to be completely over. But I do expect something bullish to come out of that.
At least some sentiment based on the news. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So. Exactly.
Yeah. So. And I remember this actually, Silverstone. He said, I messaged you guys a few weeks ago. I put in 500K initially. I do remember this. I think it was a couple months ago, actually, I feel like. And he says, and my friend is telling me BTC is the answer, and I've been scammed. I still believe in RH and want your opinion on why he's wrong. I mean, look, we can't tell you what to do. And if you put in a lump sum that was uncomfortable for you, like in one clip. I mean, we don't need to turn this into like the Silverstone investment answer show necessarily. But like, I don't know how exactly you initially got in, and maybe you can look in the mirror. I mean, maybe there were some mistakes in terms of like DCA. I don't know, but keep in mind, like your friend, I don't know him, him better than me. People are just describing the candles right now. Like everybody is doing that right now. Everybody is like, see, safe. I just told you guys at the beginning of the show, there's people in Bob Lucas's threads that are saying ETH is a long, slow rug and all this stuff. People are trading into the stuff that is surviving and doing better right now. They're chasing green candles. They're literally doing exactly the opposite of what you're supposed to do because they can't handle it emotionally and they don't have anything else going on. So they're selling red candles, getting into what's going on. Like right now, all on my feed right now, I'm seeing like Titan X stuff and everything, which whatever. I have kind of an opinion, but I'm not going to really share it. I don't care about it. I'm not going to get into that necessarily, but like I see Titan X stuff all the time on my timeline right now because the price has started to go up and whatever. If that floats your boat, that's fine. I'm not begrudging anybody, but what are you going to do? Like sell something that's down 80, 90% that you believe in and have been hardcore investing in to go in something else that the candles are now green? Like most of us have done that in the past, and you usually don't have a very good time.
Nope, I mean? Usually does not work out well.
Yeah.
Doesn't work out well. And here's the other thing with that whole option. If you would have bought $500,000 in Bitcoin, and I don't even know when you bought in, but 500,000 in Bitcoin at that point, where would you be? Still 500,000? Like when was it? Because it's not done a whole lot either. And you're better odds of getting more X's are with coins like Hex and PulseChain and PulseX and Incentive. And that's why we're here. We want to multiply something that started a lot smaller. I didn't have $500,000 to invest initially. So, I wasn't that lucky. I was, on a lot smaller scale when I first got into Hex. And well, actually before that in 2017, with a bunch of other stuff that probably shouldn't have invested in either.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of people don't get the opportunity to do that. So, you know, it depends on what you're looking to get out of it too. I don't think you were scammed. Richard hasn't taken anybody's money. Richard's fighting for crypto's rights, you know, right now. And a lot of people are going to say that about him until he wins a court case, probably. Or maybe they'll still say it. It's because they don't like him. You know, a lot of Bitcoiners, we'll, you know, I'll touch on this quickly. We've talked about it so many times. But Richard was originally Team Bitcoin. And when he jumped ship and said that Ethereum was better, people didn't like that. They didn't like him going against what they thought he was a part of. And then when he went out and created his own and started saying it's a better Bitcoin, well, they really didn't like that. So that's why you hear all these people say that Richard's a scammer and things like that. But, you know, again, there's no proof of it. He hasn't taken anybody's money. He's fighting with a bunch of lawyers. He could have disappeared into the shadows, never to be heard from again. So, you know, again, I feel like those type of people are going to be the ones that you'll eventually look back one day and say, see, I was right. And you can tell them that you made the right decision, but you've got to have faith in it, and you got to hang in there.
And if you don't have faith in it, I mean, that's something that we can't necessarily help you with. Like, I mean, if you don't believe in your investments, then people can't necessarily force you to. But that's what I think that question mainly smacks of, is like just having doubt from the beginning anyway. You know what I mean? If you're doubting it, like, sure, there are times where I feel nervous when I make a buy because I think I'm catching a falling knife, and I want to be able to buy as low as I can. It's never like, is this really what I should be buying? It's never that. It's just like, I want to get the best price I can, you know? So I definitely understand that feeling. But what I will recommend to you, Alicia Silverstone, is if you are Alicia, I don't know whatever happened to her. I want to recommend to you that you go watch our friend Frank Molina's channel. I think he would really help out your mindset a little bit. He does fantastic mindset videos all the time and talks greatly about the money supply, a lot of Michael Saylor's thoughts and things like that, why crypto overall is just the thing to be in, and specifically why he likes Richard Hart's products. And he's actually like obsessed with PulseX. That's mainly what he's invested in. But we've had him on a number of times, 2 or 3 times. He has his own channel called the DeFi Capital Show, or DeFi Capital channel, I think. Frank Molina, I can't recommend him enough. I think that you do a couple rounds with his videos and you'll be feeling pretty good, honestly. So, yeah.
Just to touch on this real quick, though, and I don't believe switching now at the bottom of the market is the time to do so. But again, it's your money. You can do what you want. I just think you would lose a lot of capital. If you're going to switch into Bitcoin, at the top would be the time to do that, only because it's, you know, obviously a lot, I don't say less volatile, but it doesn't drop as much, only because it's several years into the cycles.
And we just showed that chart earlier of Pulse versus ETH, and it's basically been flatlined and starting to move up for 4 months. A chart like that you sell and then buy the other end of it to an even worse extent, which would be Bitcoin, is traditionally exponentially a horrible move. I mean, if anything, I would be wanting to back up the dump truck, and basically mortgaging my home. No, I'm not Michael Saylor. I don't want to say that, but I would want to be doing everything I possibly can to scoop every part of that up. And that's exactly what I have been doing. I mean, that's a chart that you want to buy, not literally the opposite of sell is what you want to do with that chart. I mean, that, for me anyway. And, obviously, you understand. You're a big boy. You said, not financial advice. It's up to you. But I understand. Confidence gets shaken. Totally understand that. But I would check out Frank Molina's channel for sure. So, shout out, Frank.
Yep.
Go ahead. What does Checks My Pulse have to say here?
Says, do the research. If it clicks, you'll get it. If you don't know where you're parking your money at, you'll pay the consequences. End of story.
Yeah.
Sounds like whales only.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I highly recommend Frank's channel. I had a good little mindset conversation there. So thanks for coming in, Silverstone. If you guys are enjoying the stream so far, do us a favor and hit the like. We appreciate you being here. We do this every single Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. help us support real DeFi and PulseChain. Just checking on the poll is the bottom end for Pulse. We're now at about 60-40. 59% say yes, 40 say no. I figured it would get back to around 50-50 or so there. So we are seeing kind of closer there. So let's get into a couple of these macro topics here because it's getting interesting right now. And then we'll probably touch on the election for a minute here too. So we did have last week, the U.S. jobs report came out on the 6th of September. Unemployment was at 4.2%. Which was still higher than they wanted it to be. It was down from 4.3%. The markets moderately sold that off a little bit. We have that colored in a little bit more today, though, because we got, more importantly, the CPI data, which is, of course, the inflation numbers that are most likely entirely fake. They came out at 2.5%, which is what was expected, but was also hoped for. So now that we did get that number, they didn't come in overly hot or anything like that. It's pretty damn bullish, and it looks like so there's been highly anticipating a rate cut of some kind happening at this month's FO. Well, about to be this week's. I think it's next week, actually, the 18th. A rate cut of some sort has been expected, but now we're up to an 85% chance of it being just 25 basis points, whereas before it was about split or even in favor of 50 points, which really could have shaken the market and given us a tumultuous interim and maybe not given us that soft landing that people have been talking about. But now that we see this number come out, they have an election that they want to win. They're going to pull out all the stops they can. I think we're going to see very modest rate cuts beginning next week, which is great for the kind of nice, smoothing out of this bull market. So what do you make of these numbers coming out, Ewok? Are you expecting what the crowd is next week? Like I said, it shot up to 85% chances is what people think of the 25-point rate cut. And then how are they kind of treated going into the rest of the year? I'll pull up the rest of the FOMC meeting dates. But yeah, how do you think we look here throughout the rest of the year?
Yeah, I guess I've turned, what I was originally thinking a few weeks ago. I didn't think they would cut it. I didn't think they would take the chance of doing a rate cut, only because historically we see a cut or a drop in all the markets when that happens, and I just didn't know that if they would risk it about the same time as the election was about to happen. So if anything, if they hold it one more time, I think it would get them by that. And then then they could do what they wanted. But, the more and more I hear, I do think that a 25-point cut is what's coming. I think if they're feeling more bullish, then you may get 50. But I don't see them going that far.
I don't either. And I forgot that we did check this out a couple of weeks ago. So next week on the 18th is when we'll get that meeting. And then the next one is actually the days after the election. So this will be the final FOMC before the election. The next one is actually November 6th and 7th. So literally the 2 days after the election, which is interesting. So I think we get that.
It takes what, 45 to 60 days to even play out from the cut. So the timing of it, 45 days after that would put it after the election anyway. So it's not really going to affect it. I think that's kind of what they potentially waited for, if anything, just so that you wouldn't see a big dip in the economy right before the election, because they don't want to lose on that alone, or not that alone. But I think they don't want people to decide on that and be like, crap, it's getting even worse. We got to do something, right? I think that's why they've delayed it.
It does make me wonder if they would have ever done 50, because that's the only thing that really could have affected things in the short term, I think. So, I wonder if they ever would have really done it. So I think we'll get that modest rate cut. And this is good. Again, like this inflation data, no matter how fudged it is, I'm glad that it came in this way, because it looks like we're going to get that like gradual rate cut down. We had aggressive rate hikes over the last couple of years, 50, 75 basis points throughout 2022 and 2023. So, looks like we're coming back down now. So that is going to be bullish, especially if they can just kind of gradually do it. So we then have the meeting November 7th, and then the final one of the year is December the 18th. So that's what we've got. So we'll see. I don't know if that'll mean like a 25-point cut each of the next couple of months. We're going to have a lot of stuff coming in to find out what it is they're going to do. But it is interesting to see all this data, and I'm glad that we're not having like such a huge reactionary move based on what's happening right now. So this is good. I mean, we should feel positive about this basically in all markets, I think. So do you have any kind of final thoughts on that, Ewok?
No, not on that. I do want to address this because he's asked it 17 times. So I want to mention that I don't know. I don't know the combination of people. There's many people.
Go
that
ahead
hold.
and let's just state the question, just in case people are on the podcast.
So the question is, how many people are holding Pulse, Hex, and Pulse X compared to Sacrifice community? So I'm guessing, you want to know how many people have sold since the sacrifice. Well, many people sacrificed Hex for both Pulse and Pulse X and got a great price. So, at that point, I forget what Hex was, 20, 30 cents, depending on which sacrifice it was. But it was at a great price, and people are still kind of ahead because they did what they did. I don't know the numbers. I really don't. We would have to look it up, and there's several sites to go to. You can go to hexdailystats.com. I know that is your Hex holders. Go to I don't even remember. Go Pulse have it? Hang on. Let's take a look real quick while we're here.
I'm not sure if it's on there or not.
I'm going to check Go Pulse and stats and activity. Smart contracts, social interactions. No.
Yeah, it doesn't really look like that.
So we know there's over 50. Well, there was over 50,000, 48,000 validators for PulseChain. You've got validator fees. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see that exactly anywhere really, but
I don't either. Yeah, these are just blocks burned. Yeah. So I don't actually know. I don't know how many holders there are. Ecosystem leagues. I mean, you can tell by the leagues.
Yeah, I would at least look at the league data anyway.
The supply and what it takes to become, whatever it is. But again, I don't know the statistics. You would have to do a lot of research, put it all together, and find out how many holders, because there are probably holders of Pulse that don't own any Hex. There's probably, a few Hexicans that don't own any Pulse. I would put that number a lot lower. But again, there are people that didn't really like Hex that got into PulseChain. So, and then, you figure incentive as well. So there's a lot of statistics that just you would really have to go through and do your homework, and a number that I can't answer that question. So I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I wanted to address it because, like I said, he asked it many, many times. So
okay, there you go. Kind of an answer. So let's move over to let's talk a little bit about the debate last night. We won't go way too into this. I'm sure people have been inundated with like opinions on it, and depending upon where you align, it's like, oh, come on, crushed him. Oh, Trump, you nailed her. Everybody's going to have an extreme opinion one way or the other. But I think we both kind of feel the same way, that Trump didn't do as well as we would have hoped. But I think it also is up to, and again, not to get political, but if you're watching this show, I mean, we're pretty much going to be like a one issue vote. I mean, that's just kind of where we are, and it sucks that crypto and some monetary things like that have to be politicized, because it should be it shouldn't be down to parties, you know what I mean? But it is. I mean, Democrats are actively ignoring it, and when it comes to people like Elizabeth Warren are actively actually trying to get legislation passed to hurt and drive crypto out. Biden has been very anti-crypto. Trump, I don't think is any kind of crypto expert, obviously, but I think he at least doesn't care at the very least and is going to leave it alone. His sons seem like they're meddling in a lot of DeFi stuff, so that's cool anyway. But yeah, I think the moderators really stole the show last night. I think that they were as far as, not that I'm like a debate aficionado, I actually kind of hate them, to be honest. They are sometimes pretty entertaining and fun. Like the Biden Trump one was fun. I thought that was funny. It was fun to watch. That was cool. Last night, because Kamala at least can like speak and stuff like that, it was a little bit of a different, vibe. The 2020 ones I thought were horrible. I couldn't even watch those at all. But the moderators like clearly were going at Trump. But I think Trump, I also, though, some of the Republicans or Trump himself or some of the people that are voting for Trump and stuff like that shouldn't just do this victim thing where it's like, oh, the moderators. I mean, yeah, they were horrible. I think it was definitely 3-1, and I don't think it was a fair fight in that regard. But also, he just kept kind of stepping in shit constantly. Like it was airmailed many times that she was just kind of trying to bait him into having arguments about, oh, what people aren't leaving my rallies and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? Why are we talking about this? Like throwing him off and him just taking the bait and going into it. And I think that's just his ego. That's always been kind of a, blessing and a curse, obviously, for the guy. But for some of the parts, like just looking at the moderators, like that Dave Mirror guy or whatever, the male moderator, literally getting like into it with Trump at one point, telling him when he was talking about whether or not he won the debate or won the election by a whisker, saying the phrase, I think you saw this video from Megyn Kelly. He said the phrase, I didn't hear sarcasm in that. Like he's arguing with Trump about his opinion about something that Trump said before. Like, what the hell are you talking about, dude? This has nothing to do with the debate. And nobody cares about your opinion, just absolutely wild. But like, kudos to Trump for like his bravery for wanting to like go into a hornet's nest like that. I mean, I think it is good of him that he at least tried to do that, but maybe it is stupid. Maybe it is stupid to go into environments like that where it's going to be set up like that, especially if you can't put your foot in your mouth and not get butthurt over, oh, your rallies suck or whatever. Like, just move on, So, yeah, I don't know if you had any takeaways from it, but
well, yeah, I did. I mean, I do agree. The moderators definitely made it a 3-1 show. The fact checking was being done for him, but not her. There was a lot of things that, she didn't answer many questions either. It turned into I grew up very poor in a small whatever town, and my mom worked really, so that didn't answer the question. So, I just felt like a lot of deflecting, a lot of baiting, and unfortunately, he took the bait a couple times. That didn't help him. So, and then I don't know if you saw this or not, but apparently she was wearing these earrings that were supposed to be recording or listening devices or speaking devices, where there could have been somebody in her ear.
I think
it also
I
sounded.
I didn't really read it, but yeah.
Okay. It also sounded like she was very well versed for the questions, whether she had them ahead of time. Apparently, the owner or manager or CEO of ABC is the one that introduced her and her husband. And yes, I do think she got a lot of the questions ahead of time. So she was very well heard. But again, it's a debate, right? They're going to ask the same questions. They're going to talk about the border. They're going to talk about the abortion policy. They're going to talk about a lot of that stuff that's already been brought up. But again, when these things get brought up about Project 2025, which he claims he has nothing to do with, he didn't write it. He had nothing to do with it. He says he hasn't even read it. The fact checking has to be done by both sides, right? You can't call him out on a lie when she's standing there blatantly telling lies too about how she's flip-flopped on a lot of her policies. Like, why? I wanted to hear that. Why did you change? If you're not against gun control like you were 3 years ago, why? If you're not against fracking like you were 3 years ago, why? So there's a lot of questions that I didn't have answered that I thought maybe should be. Now she's wanting to have another another debate because she feels strongly
Of course.
about it. Of course she does. But again, he needs to be careful and do it on his terms this time. You know, that these were all their terms, the Democrats' terms. I don't know that he gets a fair anything these days. Just even Fox News is they're the most on his side coverage that he would get, but I don't think any of mainstream media could give a fair type of thing. And
Right.
you know, looking back on it, when you look at the one that was on CNN, right, with Biden,
Oh yeah.
it almost leads me to believe that they didn't help him. But now I think about it and was like, well, was that intentional?
Oh,
Were they
definitely.
part of
Yeah.
the reason to get rid of him?
I think
Um,
that was people were thinking that 24 hours after, yeah, and
yeah.
I believe that too. I think that
So
because they had Biden so heavily like manipulated with whatever on like State of the Union addresses and stuff like that before, and then he just came out full
yeah.
Biden on that debate,
Yep.
and it seemed intentional to me. Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, I don't know that another debate is necessary or good, or you know, at this point I think people have either made up their mind or they're not going to. You know,
right.
there was a lot of times up there that I said, man, RFK wish he was up there because he would have had the answers to a lot of those questions. You know, he's a lot
Yeah,
smoother of a
true.
talker, even though he's hard to listen to with his
Mhm.
voice. But he is pretty quick. Or even somebody like Vivek,
Yeah.
you
Oh
know,
yeah.
he's a very quick thinker
I
too.
I don't
I
think
feel bad
Trump.
that he took the
Okay.
bait on a lot of things. So
I do
that's all I
too.
have.
I was gonna say I don't think Trump is a great debater. I think he's had, he's been fortunate to, go up against Hillary Clinton, who no one likes, Biden, who is gone, and then now Kamala is at least able to, like, she has had good looking debate moments in the past, and yeah, it definitely seemed like she was very prepared, and there was something already going on between the moderators and her. But again, Trump hurt himself as well. I don't want to play a victim here, and I don't think the Republicans or Trump should be playing a victim in this whole thing.
Yeah.
And you bring up an interesting point. Are people really even swayed by these? I mean, I think this is just kind of, the tabloids of the election, basically. It's
Yep.
like, if you're voting on a policy, your mind is made up. I really don't care at all. I mean, I care for entertainment purposes. That's purely why we were going to watch it. But other than that, I mean, there's nothing that's going to happen in these debates that's going to make me change my vote or anything.
No. And remember, she's a lawyer. She was a lawyer, or the prosecutor, district
Mhm.
attorney, whatever. She knows how to bait people.
Yeah,
So she is skilled at that. Whether she's got any policy or any ideas of policy, um, you know, that's another thing that we haven't heard. What are your policies going to be? She skirts around it an awful lot, so we really don't even know. At least we know what we get with him, right? We've had it
right.
before. With her, it's either more of the same or you're going to change it, but we don't know to change it to what. So I think that's
Right.
kind of where we're at, and you know, see what happens.
One thing I will say, and again, I mean, sometimes this isn't a popular opinion because people are just so hot with all this political stuff right now. Yes, obviously, if you are somebody who is more freedom minded and enjoys, more money in your pockets through less taxes and less government in your life, and is pro crypto, you want to vote for Trump. I mean, obviously, but we have to realize that everything about the success of crypto and this cycle in particular and all these things do not hinge on this election. We have to remember that Bitcoin has seen many years of a Democrat in power with Barack Obama, obviously. Now, you can argue that party's gotten way, way worse since then. But still, I mean, we have to remember that this stuff is still here. There is still innovation being done. Yes, I do think that there are Democrats actively trying to stifle it so they can, maintain their kind of ruling class. And not even just Democrats, there's Republicans too. I mean, the uniparty is a real thing. I mean, 100%. I think that's why a candidate like Trump, for his misgivings, is popular to many people, because he's not part of that, really. He's the most anti-uniparty guy anyway that we've seen in a really long time. And then like RFK, of course, joining him, and Tulsi Gabbard and stuff like that. But we have to remember, like, if Kamala wins this election somehow, that doesn't mean it's the death of crypto. Now, if Elizabeth Warren somehow did, maybe, I don't know. But a lot of the things that she's proposing is not going to get by Congress. You just have to realize, like, everybody has heightened emotions right now and are terrified of what's going to happen and think that it's going to like hurt their bags right here, right now. And I think we just need to bring the emotions down overall when it comes to that stuff. That said, vote for the candidate that you think is going to help crypto. And I'd say 99% of people would think that's Donald Trump, obviously. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Agree.
Did you have any final? I don't want to go way too further into this. Did you have any thoughts about RH was tweeting like a madman during this? I mean, he was basically live tweeting it with his visceral reactions, which was kind of interesting. I don't know if you had any takeaways from anything that he was saying during this, but yeah, he was really going in on the
no, I was getting a kick out of it. He was live tweeting it. I mean, he must have been using voice text or something because he was on top of it. Or he is a very fast typer, so it could have been that as well. I wish he would have live streamed it and done it that way. That would have been interesting to see.
Right. Yeah.
But again, we haven't seen him live stream in quite some time. Yeah, there were a couple points where he brought up and said, "Hey man, I wish you would talk about this. Hey man, I wish you would talk about this." And sure enough, it did come up. So, right. He said at one point, I know you're telepathically, or I forget how he existentially reading my mind or reading my tweets while you're there, but just the way he said it, it was pretty funny. So yeah, I got a kick out of it. You can clearly tell who he's rooting for, even though he's not.
Well, he flat out very strongly endorsed him. Actually, yes. I don't know. It took the assassination attempt, I think. Oh, we probably just got demonetized. Sorry. Yeah. But it probably took the assassination, or I think he was saying it shortly after the assassination attempt. Yeah. I mean, he has seen pro-Trump in the past. I know he liked Vivek and stuff like that. But yeah, RH has been obviously supporting Trump for some time now. So yeah. Anyway, that's the debate.
How about you? Did you have any takes from his comments?
I was surprised just how much he tweeted about it, honestly. Just how insane he went in on it. I mean, he was like really, really interested in it. I don't know. I was just surprised by that, I guess. After a while, I couldn't really keep up because I was trying to watch it myself. But, I guess for me, it's kind of just redundant because I'm like, yeah, I mean, I agree with all of this, and what you're saying is happening is what I feel like I'm witnessing as well. So, yeah.
I think one of his major points is that if Trump does win, the SEC will pretty much probably be dismantled. And that's kind of what we're all hoping for in a best case scenario. So whether or not Kamala would change people or change roles of those people, I don't know if that would happen or not. Most of the time, a new president appoints people and doesn't really. Trump said it again last night, is they don't fire people, right? People that are doing a bad job, they don't ever fire them. So, I kind of see more of the same with that administration change. Whereas if at least I think Trump would switch some figures in those positions.
That's really the main thing. Is it's not as if Trump gets elected and Bitcoin goes to 250K, Kamala gets elected and we top out at 90. It's not like some kind of thing like that. But I mean, it is, he would have the incentive to disband the SEC or at least reform it and stuff like that. You saw what he did with the justices during his tenure, which was huge. Like Democrats let Ruth Bader Ginsburg be there forever, and then she passes away and he gets to appoint whoever he wants to, you know what I mean? So there's things like that are going to happen, like huge administrative changes and things like that. So that's really what you have to look forward to based on the election. So yeah, will be interesting to see how things kind of play out here over the next few months. But we are less than 2 months away. So tell you what, why don't we're getting close to where we would finish up here shortly. I want to make sure we get to this. So some Bank X news over the last couple of days. So if any of you guys are not familiar with this entity, Bank X was basically, I never really say it right, some kind of algorithmic silver stable coin or something like that. Yep. So the Hex God Whale had famously sent them supposedly fat fingered. I don't know what he did. I don't know if it was intentional, whatever, but he sent them tons and tons and tons of hex. Essentially, they've had it up as a sell wall and been wanting to sell it for quite some time. They're actually already through, I feel like half of what they had total at this point. I'm pretty sure. And they just removed. Okay, they just removed their sell wall. So they had a huge sell wall up for quite some time. I think there was a time where it was between 1 and 3 cents, and then they moved the parameters down as obviously the price keeps going down and everything. But they still have about 570 million EHEX right now. They have been selling in the background. At the moment, it's probably about $700,000 or something like that. But that's how much HEX they have. So what do you make of them removing the sell wall in the interim? What do you think their plans are? And, for some people, because a lot of people, I think, see something like that and think that it's just like, oh, it's never going to be able to go up again, and they're going to hold the price down forever, and there's no way we're going to get above this and things like that. So give me what you think, Ewok, about them removing the sell wall and actually how insignificant them still having that amount of EHEX really is, because I think people are making a bit of a mountain out of a molehill there.
So I just looked at the one main address. I know Silver the Antidote post their address. It looks like they are back. This was on October 25th, so not that long ago. They still have 737 million EHEX left. I think they only started with 800 million. So they haven't gone that far. It looks, I just looked their address up, and they only have 102 million of that liquid, which means I think the rest of it is placed in liquidity pools, Uniswap positions, different things. Either way, it doesn't completely matter. I think they did remove some of it. And I think they know that they're one of the reasons why the price isn't going up. People don't want to sell into them. So I think that they realized that a little bit. I think they bridged some of it over onto the PulseChain side as well and put liquidity over there. That's why we're not seeing it on Ethereum's side. So I wish we could just get rid of it. I wish there were just a bunch of buys to get them out and be gone and close this chapter, right? At the same time, I know they want out desperately, and I think that if they would lower some of these and put different walls in, they could kind of probably do it in a more strategic way. And help the price actually go up. They would get more out of it in the long run. Put 10, 15 million in spots at a time rather than one big chunk like that. People are just very intimidated by it. So I would like to see it removed. I would like to see them strategically do it, or somebody just make them an offer to say GTFO I want to buy this all from you at once. That's what I would personally like to see. But again, I don't think their project's going to do that well. I think they'll probably, it's a silver-backed stable coin is what it is. And as we know, things like that just don't historically work out. So
are they even doing anything with it? Like I don't even know if is it abandoned? I don't even know if they're doing anything.
I haven't heard anything about it. Like I did at one point, and then it just kind of faded away. Maybe they ran out of money. Who knows? But either way, I think they could do this a lot more strategically and get more out of it in the long run if they didn't just plop a whole bunch in there and say, if it happens, it happens, kind of thing. So that's where I stand with it. Again, I'd like them to be gone completely. But it is going to take some time, and it's going to take a bunch of buyers. If a bunch of us decided to do it, it would definitely make it a lot easier. If we kind of went on a mission to get them out, but it would have to be a huge group effort, or like I said, a couple large entities just saying, all right, I'm done with these people. Let's get them out of here.
See ya. Yeah. Well, the good news is, I mean, they're a third of the way out. The market really moved against them. Like they had that initial sell wall up. We all knew between 1 and 3 cents with like different areas, and of course, EHEX is at a tenth of a penny now. So I mean, it's moved so far against them that it's like they are selling the bottom. At this point. So it'll take some time to get through it. As things start to move up, but EHEX, it doesn't take a lot of money for it to start pumping hardcore. That's one thing that we do know. So when that does happen, and I think it will, it's going to be interesting. Yeah, we'll see some sells and stuff like that. But, I'm not worried about, I think it's that whole analogy of like holding a beach ball underwater kind of, you know what I mean? I think once it gets out, we move past that and stuff like that. Just look out,
Yep.
So
Agree.
All right. Well, that is Bank X. We'll see how that saga continues. And actually, let's wrap up with this because I've wanted to get to this for a couple of weeks, and you did just allude to this earlier. And people, we're now a year, well over a year into PulseChain. I mean, going on a year and a half or a year and 4 months or so, I think exactly. And one of the big sacrifice projects that was out there, of course, was liquid loans. And people, they got a lot of money. They were one of the most highly anticipated platforms that was going to be on PulseChain. You talked at the beginning of the show, Ewok. This has nothing really to do with them as a platform or anything like that. But you talked about your position, wanting to pull it out of there and stuff like that based on how you were set up. But just kind of a quick update on liquid loans, because the loan token is obviously like Zen. I mean, it's basically just gone down forever. Many people are upset, maybe rightly so, about like the lack of development there, or feeling that the funds haven't really gone to anything. There's just a lot of people out there that are kind of, I've seen calling them out here and there lately, and really I haven't even heard much from them lately. So I don't know. I would want to defer to you about like what the platform offers and what you have found valuable or not so valuable from it and things like that. But I've just seen some people talking about it lately, especially with like updates to other products like 9-inch and stuff like that lately. I'm just curious where you're at with liquid loans. Again, haven't heard much from it, and what your experience with it has been.
Well, we can talk about it, the platform itself, and kind of go over what it is, what it does. And you're right, the loan token is pretty much a forever dump. It was almost like an incentive token, because people get it as rewards. Okay, there's different ways. So you can borrow, you can deposit your Pulse right here, and then borrow and get USDL, which is the dollar stable coin that's minted. So essentially, it's worth $1 of Pulse when you do it. So this varies. Right now, it's 97 cents. So it's dipped a little bit. It looks like it's on its way back up. But there's a lot of things to mathematically keep it pegged at $1. It's always worth $1 in Pulse. So that number varies, right? So if it's 100 1 minute, 100 Pulse, then the price goes up, then it's only 99. Either way, it's pegged to $1 worth of Pulse. So when you get their USDL, then you can lock it into a stability pool. So you stake your USDL, and for your rewards, you're getting the loan token. Well, what I did, what a lot of people are doing, was taking those, selling the loan, and then repaying the loan. So essentially, it was a free reward that you could do two things with it. You could then stake that as well. So you could stake your loan tokens and earn another yield. So what I would do is, like every other week or so, I would just stake the loan tokens and get more rewards. So you're getting Pulse and USDL for the staking the loan token, and then the stability for staking the USDL is you're getting the loan token, and then you're getting Pulse. So you're getting Pulse and either loan or USDL for whichever one you're doing. And like I said, I just borrowed money, staked it, and then started earning the rewards and sold them off to pay back the loan. So eventually I would have staked money in there that was free and clear. However, like I said, I had started it at 1,000% over, I think it was 11 and 1,200% collateral, just to be safe, because I could have survived a 90% drop or whatever it was at that point. And it got down to be where it was only 400 or just under I forget, just under 400% collateralized. And for me, that was a little bit too close, because I had a fair amount of pulse in there that it wasn't worth it to lose it, because I had taken so little value out. I know there are people that are collateralizing at like just at 110% and taking it out and not caring. That's the way they're selling, because you can sell a large amount by doing that, getting the stable coin, and you're only eating 10% slippage. Whereas if you try to dump a billion pulse on the market, you're going to eat a lot more slippage than probably, 10%. So depending on the liquidity pools and things like that. Either way, there's nothing wrong with the platform. It's just the loan token itself has been forever down. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros, 170 right now. At one point, I think it was 2 or 3 zeros. So it's fallen very far. I don't know if I can. No, that just adds it to your wallet. So I was going to say, I was going to look up this chart on the loan token.
I was going to do that on Dex Screener just real quick here.
I'm pulling it up too.
Okay. Yeah, it's
pulse.
Yep,
it's a forever down chart. I mean, it's
kind of flattened out over the last 2 months, but
yeah,
I mean,
here it is. I mean,
it's not really coming up though. So
it's like, when you look at this, it started. Let's go to log, at least to see it. You can't even see it because that first candle. There we go. It has just gone down, 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 down. It did start. Well, it did. Wow. Okay. For some reason,
man, Dex Screener does that. If you
that first candle was like crazy. Either way.
I was looking at it against Pulse. It's a little more favorable looking against Pulse, but it's going down. I mean, it's one of those things where like a lot of these tokens like that, and then for other like yield earning platforms, like we've heard about the Cake token and stuff like that in the past. A lot of people thought that Incentive token would just be a dump token, but it doesn't really look like that's been the case with it. But you will see that with, products like this. Like you will see that they just end up being a forever dump token. But I mean, it is good reports that, you have used the platform. It works as intended. It just for you right now, it just doesn't make sense to do. But I just think there's people out there that have had clamoring for, more things to be offered by them and things like that with the amount of money that they've gotten. And just figure we would do a check on it anyway. But
I mean, and that is one of the things too. They did take a pretty large sacrifice, and I think one of the rewards was the I think it was the loan token that they gave out or whatever. Essentially was what was given as the sacrifice. So that's a tough one, right? And they're asking people, how do you suggest that we market? And someone, I know someone had said something like, "Well, spend some of the money you got from the sacrifice," and they immediately got blocked. So, again, I'm not on either side. The platform works as intended. When the markets are down, it drags everything else that's kind of tied with it down as well. You clearly see what's happening. People are selling it to pay back the loan. That's kind of the way it works. Until you can develop something that doesn't give you a shit ton of loan tokens as rewards, that's going to happen. People may need another reason to lock them up to earn something else. Maybe they build something else on top of it. I don't know. But again, what do you do, right? So I just think when the markets are down, that's what happens. People get them, they sell them, and they repay their loan. So
Right.
that again, it not a good review, not a bad review. I'm just stating everything works as intended. I do remember seeing some things that I wasn't really a fan of, um, and that was the redemption fees. And I think people may not have understood those completely when they put their money in to stake in the stability pool, because there were often times when the price would drop, and even though I was over collateralized, the money that I had staked kept decreasing. I was getting redeemed upon. Now, the interesting part of that was I was getting rewarded in Pulse. So for redemption fees, I was getting massive rewards in Pulse. So at that point, what you had to do was trade your Pulse out back into the USDL to get it back. And you actually made out a little bit. I think you made 9 or 10% more than what you had. But if you didn't do that, it just looked like your balance was kept coming down. So a lot of people that weren't trading their Pulse back into the loan token, were ending up with less value. So it was a tricky balance to keep an eye on it. And like I said, it's oftentimes I would look at it and I'm like, well, why did my stake go down? Why do I have less now than I had last week, or whatever it was? And that's what was happening. People were getting redeemed, which takes out from your USDL tokens, and gives you the Pulse instead. So there is management. It's not one of those set it and forget it type things. You have to be on top of it all the time and pay attention to it too, because the last thing you want to do is get liquidated.
Yeah, I think that's the thing to be careful of, especially when you're at the bottom of a market like this, or if there's volatility or anything like that, is just know what you're getting into with any of these tools, whether it's like LPing on PulseX or 9inch or whatever other platform it is. Like, make sure you know what you're doing, know the risk versus reward, and how actively you have to manage this stuff. Because some of them, you better be on top of it or you will lose money. Others you can kind of do more passively. So. Well, I appreciate that, Ewok, and your experiences with liquid loans. I think that pretty much is going to wrap us up for tonight. Good show tonight. We appreciate the active chat. We've had a lot of good stuff in here. Checks my pulse, of course. DJ and Moonboy, we got I don't know how to pronounce that. Boy, you guys have been spamming here. I don't even see more Hex, Valiant, Low Key, of course, Hex Girl. Appreciate all you guys. Good show tonight. We do this every single Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We did end up with about a 50-50 split on whether the PulseChain bottom is in. So whether it is, whether it isn't, people are pretty split. Like we said, kind of just getting to the original message of the show is just we're still playing the waiting game. It's not just PulseChain. It's pretty much all of crypto. We want Ethereum to turn around, obviously. This next quarter is going to be absolutely crazy in the macro and what's happening in the United States. So we'll be here every week to pay attention to it and talk crypto and, help you guys along the way. So we appreciate you guys being here. Ewok, did you have any final thoughts?
No, man. Actually, I do. I saw a comment that made me think a little bit, real quick, about Richard's latest marketing stuff. And I keep hearing Richard's gaslighting people. He's gaslighting. He's not talking to the people that have been here. He's talking to the people that aren't here yet. He's trying to onboard. You have to understand that as a marketing type of person, when somebody's saying what they think is going to happen or whatever, they're not talking to the people that have already been here. They're trying to reach a new audience. So keep that in mind. He's not gaslighting the people that are already here. He knows damn well it's down, just like the rest of crypto. But that's not how you want to lead your marketing, right? I know we're down right now, really, really bad, but that's not how you do it. So I just want people to understand that when they see some of these tweets and they feel like he's gaslighting you or the people that are here, it's not directed at us. Believe me, it's the new people that we want to come into this market. So Keep that in mind.
Yeah, I think people, you should realize that. And I understand people like get upset because prices are down and stuff like that, but you have to understand somebody advertising. Yeah. So I think that's well said.
For sure.
Okay. Well, hey, appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week right here. Same time, same channel. For Crypto Ewok, this has been Broke Boi Crypto right here on the Creed of Crypto live stream. See you guys.
See ya.